Hey, welcome back. It's good to see you. Glad you could join me. Have you used any great apps recently? Well, if you think back to the last app that you used, you might have seen a main menu page when you first launched it, and then after tapping on an option, you probably would have been sent to maybe a games level or another part of the application, and you might have also had settings options that would have taken you to another screen. Each of these screens is most probably controlled by an activity. An application can contain many activities, or it might just contain one. No activity, no app. And jumping around in between all of these different activities is just the beginning of the abuse your application is going to get. Have you ever received a phone call in the middle of an application? It suddenly darts out to deal with an incoming call. Or have you ever tapped on the home button so you could check out another application to see if you've received any new messages? All this buffeting around and all of these interruptions and in-app changes and random events are part of what is called the activity lifecycle. So whichever activity is interrupted in your application has to manage these interruptions, whether it's at the point of startup or at the point of shutting down your application, or whether it's being paused. And Android helps you manage this. You might have noticed that on screen at the moment there's a chart, and this is the activity lifecycle chart. So if you look a little closer, you can see that there are the main activities. The activity is launched, the activity is running, the activity shuts down. All of the events that I've just described are handled by these on the creation of an activity, on the start of an activity, on resuming an activity after you've paused it. And here's a method that lets you handle anything that you want to do when you paused your activity. So Android has a class that implements all these methods that you can use. Did I just throw in a couple of words there that might have been a bit foreign? I know a few of you might not be programmers and may not have recognised the word class and method. Don't let the lingo scare you off. As we go through these tutorials, you'll pick up what these things are and what they do. But just for now, accept that a class is a program, and it contains a set of methods. And a class can be used to describe an object. Say it was describing a bicycle. It would contain methods that describe the actions of a bicycle. So you may have a method that describes the turning wheel, or a method that describes a pedal or the handlebars, and another method controlling the ringing of the bell. So anyway, don't get too tied up in that for the moment. So Android does have a class called the activity class. And the activity class has these member methods. The same methods that you've just seen on the flowchart, the onCreate method, the onStart method, the onPause method, and there are other classes that are derived from this base activity class. And they're called derived classes, extended classes, child classes. When you extend a class or derive a class, you inherit its methods. So again, I'm going to go back to the bicycle example. We could have a base class that covered the very basics of a bicycle. The wheels go round, pedals go round, hit the bell, bell rings. And then you might want to extend the class. Maybe you wanted a mountain bike, so you'd inherit the bike class and then you'd add your own method or to describe extra gears. Or you might do something called overriding. So you'd override an existing method that describes the wheel. And you'd say that in my class I would like thicker tyres. And then you might want to have another type of bike. Let's go off the scale and say a motorbike. So you would extend or derive a new class, and you'd add a new method called engine. And if you really wanted to go crazy, you could take your new motorbike class, extend it, create a derived class, and stick a couple of wings on it, and then you'd have a flying motorbike. And that's classes and methods and inheritance and extended classes and child classes for you. I hope that makes what we're going to be talking about a lot clearer. So let's take a look at the activity lifecycle in our example application. we know that the first activity to be launched is our main activity, and we've stated which activity is our main activity in the Android manifest. So I'm just going to go over the manifest again. So the manifest is just an XML file, as you know, and here is our application. So here's one node application, and within the application we can list all the activities that we've mentioned before, and this activity is called the main activity, and it's in our package called net.clientuser.droidwire1. So that's the first activity that's opened by the app. If we go into our package over here, open up the main activity, you can see that our class main activity extends action bar activity. And we could call our main activity anything, as long as within the manifest we state that this is the main activity and we want this to be launched first. So I've used that word again, extends an activity. Whenever your class extends an activity, you have to import the activity you're referencing. So action bar activity is part of the android.support.v7.app package. And you can see that we've already inherited some methods. So we've inherited and we've overridden the onCreate method. I'm just going to drag over the activity lifecycle. So here's the onCreate method on the chart, and here's the onCreate method in our class. It looks like that's the only method that's currently inherited, and it's a great opportunity to show you how to override methods in a class. So if you go over to code, override methods, Android Studio lists all of the methods available for you to inherit and override of the activity you've just extended. And you may have noticed that I said that Android had an activity class. Well, action bar activity is a derived class of the activity class. And if I just, it's a derived, actually the rabbit hole gets quite deep here. The action bar activity is extended from the fragment activity, and fragment activity is extended from the activity class, and all of these methods are available at any point for you to import. So let's take a look at one of the methods we might want to import. If you look at the activity lifecycle, you've got onCreate, onStart, onResume, onPause. So let's look for the onPause method. So browsing down the immediate inherited class, onPost, can we find it? On prepare. So I got a bit lost there, quite a few methods to go through, and I've just had to cut the video. I found the onPause method. It's actually implemented in the app fragment activity, the parent class of action bar activity. So here it is. All you need to do to override it is hit pause, select insert and override, and hit OK. And immediately you have a method that's going to take care of anything that you want it to when your application is paused. We've gone over the activity lifecycle. I've shown you that Android has a class with methods that handle every point in the activity lifecycle. I've shown you how to extend and inherit and override the methods of a parent class to create your own activity classes and an application. You'll be creating many of these for your applications. So I think the tutorial's done. Some of you might want to investigate a little bit deeper, and if you do, stick around. What you can do is take a look at where the action bar activity class is. So again, in the import statement, it tells you which package the class is in. So we're going to go over to the project view here and choose packages. Now, if we look at the libraries, we've got Android, so we can expand Android. We can go down to support v7, and within here we've got app, and finally we find our action bar activity. And if you open that, you've got much more detail on what your activity class contains. You'll also notice that the action bar activity itself, as I mentioned before, extends the fragmented activity. And you can do the same with this. You can look up where this fragmented activity class is and open it and take a look at its member methods. But I leave that up for you, and that's the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.